Hi, and welcome to the Gender Wage Gap in 3 minutes. In honor of March as Women's History Month, I want to dive into one of the issues women face today, the gender wage gap. In simple terms, the gender wage gap talks about the difference between the wage a woman earns compared to a man's in the same job. However, when talking about how the wage gap persists today, it is necessary to apply an intersectional lens. Intersectional feminism is a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. As a scholar and feminist, she started this theory to explore how women of color are discriminated in society. In her paper titled Demarginalizing the Intersection of Race and Sex, a Black feminist critic of anti-discriminated doctrine, feminist theory, and anti-racist politics, she talks about Black feminism and points out how a Black woman's life cannot be looked at in independent terms of just being Black or just being woman, but must be understood in their relation to each other. Now, the concept is used to discover how the multiple identities of a woman affect the rights she experiences in society. For example, an African American Muslim woman could experience discrimination not only for being female, but also for her race and religion. So, when studying the gender wage gap, it's essential to take into account intersectionality. It's a common misconception that women earn 77 cents compared to a man's dollar. This is wrong because it jumbles all women and all men into one category, ignoring how other factors could play a role. The Institute for Women's Policy Research found that white women earn about 79 cents per dollar compared with white men, and African American women earn just 62.5 cents. Not to mention that Hispanic women earn 54.4 cents to a white man's dollar. However, even these statistics are incredibly broad, as they talk about the median of a full-time working woman's earnings compared to the median of a full-time working man's earnings. So, the idea of adjusted wage gaps needs to be more prevalent. Adjusted wage gaps means that when studying the wage gap, economists adjust for factors like age, industry, and education. And even when they adjust for these things, the gender wage gap is still there. The Economic Policy Institute found that in the U.S., women workers generally have more education than men, and yet are paid less. So what can we do? Sure, knowing all of this is useful, but where do we go now in order to close the wage gap for women of all identities? First and foremost, women need to advocate for each other. You might not experience the wage gap in your industry, but you have to recognize that other women do and do your best to take on that issue. Collaboration is key in getting anywhere, and just because we might not experience it ourselves, we have to recognize that others do. Secondly, push the wage gap to become a bigger topic of discussion. Whether it's asking your company to analyze the gap in your company, or it's pushing for better parental leave policies, stand up for what you need. Of course, though, the first step is education. So thank you for listening to the Gender Wage Gap in 3 minutes.